I'm the founder of SheEO based in Canada. And this whole Zoom world is just so fascinating. So we have a bit of a process that we use at SheEO to get our meetings started. And we like to start with a one-word check-in just to get a sense of where you're coming from. So the sentiment, how you're feeling, what you'd like to share with the group. And we do this in pretty fast pace, going from one person to the next. And so if you, what we'd like you to do is to unmute your phone when I call upon you, and then mute your phone right after. And it's just a one-word check-in, and I'll start with someone who's done this before just to give you a sense and flavor. So Dahlia Cohen, you're first.
Energetic.
Awesome. Janaki?
Community.
Tanya?
Trying.
Yumi?
Curious.
Severin?
Curious.
Lucy Matthews?
Inspired.
Heather Allen?
Hopeful.
Usola?
Sisterhood.
Helena?
Excited.
Carol Finn? Unmute.
Excited too.
Oh, great. Eliza? O'Keefe?
Eliza, it's hopeful, and community's mine too.
Eliza, thank you. Victoria?
Energized.
Lisa Lechner?
Awakened.
Kalila Jones?
Uplifted.
Allie?
Tired.
Leanne Eden?
So glad. I was going to say tired as well, but hoping this is energizing.
Rebecca Bonington?
Hopeful.
Juliet Fallowfield?
Hopeful also.
Ada Jabaru?
Hopeful also.
AEP Koloki?
Beth, thankful.
Thank you. Anna Lockwood?
Inspired.
Faye Thompson?
Interested.
Ithaca Cordia?
Curious.
Mala Bachman?
Curious.
Equi? Ruby?
Grateful.
Eve Gabbro?
Curious.
Mala Bachman? Did I already get?
Sorry.
I got you
I've
already.
already said,
Okay.
you've already got me. So
I got you.
curious,
Sorry.
interested.
Everyone's moving on my little screen here. Okay. Jillian? Bennett?
Excited.
Great. Thank you. Dominique?
Curious.
Chola?
Thankful.
Jennifer Kelly?
Excited.
Ellen Lederman?
Interested.
Wendy Becker?
Are you in Philly?
Zoomed out.
Okay. Miriam Khan?
Motivated.
Alexandra Klein? If you can unmute. Okay. Kadeen Cooper? If I'm calling on you, if you wanted to unmute and give us a one word. Kadeen?
Curious and overwhelmed.
Okay. Christelle Kupa?
Interested.
Great. Okay. And short.
Sorry.
One word check. We're doing one word check-in.
Interested and actually exhausted.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get you buoyant. Suzanne Beagle. One word check-in.
Activated.
Wendy Lewitt. We're doing one-word check-ins. If I'm calling upon you, you can just unmute and say one-word check-in. Wendy Lewitt.
Engaged.
Thank you. Julia McKeough. Okay. Did I miss anyone? If so, do you want to unmute and say one word check-in? Sorry, there's lots of moving on the screen. Okay.
Del Santani just checked in.
Oh, great. Thank you. Welcome. So hi, everyone. Thrilled to have you here. 3 screens of people in the UK. This is awesome. I'm going to do a little bit of an overview on SheEO for people that are new. I'll speak for about 10 minutes, just going through the model and how we're approaching things. And then we're going to hear from a few activators about their experience. And if you're an activator who'd like to say something, please feel free to put your name in the chat box when we get there. And then we're going to hear from a venture, and we'll get to Q&A. So we started SheEO in, oh, Jessie, are you going to share your screen? Is Jessie here? Did we lose her? Oh, there she is. Great. Hi. There we go. Okay, cool. So SheEO started in 2015 in Canada, and the goal was to really rethink how to get capital and support into the hands of women-led ventures who were working on really important businesses that were dealing with what we call the world's to-do list. So working on the world's to-do list. And we stepped back. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I've witnessed how incredibly challenging it is to get capital into the hands of women. About 3% of venture capital globally goes to women. We are not a niche market. We are literally 50% of the population, 51%. And still the amount of capital that flows our way is just unjust, I shall say. From my own experience of being a VC, being an angel, and having a lot of experiences in this space, I sort of stepped back and thought, I don't think it's just a matter of creating a women's venture fund. I think you have to actually rethink a lot of these things, because the only way to really fund more women entrepreneurs is to have more women contributing. And I think there's a lot of system biases and challenges in the approach that we currently take to fund venture. So I want to rethink it completely. So our model, and you can see this up on the screen, is basically taking a look at the crowdfunding approach, which there's about 50% participation in crowdfunding campaigns with women and men. So that was an indicator that there was something different that was much more relational involved in it. And so what we did is we tried to find an amount of money that millions of women could do that wasn't too high of a bar, but wasn't super low either. And so we came up with this amount for the UK market of £850 or £71 a month. And so hundreds of women in your country will come together and contribute that amount of capital. It's a gift. You're not getting your money back. It's put into the shared pool, and that money will be loaned out at 0% interest to entrepreneurs from your community that you're most excited about. You will go online and vote for them. That 0% interest loan, they will pay back over 5 years into the fund, and then it'll be loaned out again. So we're creating a perpetual fund. Money will be in flow to entrepreneurs who are doing great things with it and kept productive moving forward forever. It's the democratic process for voting is really fun. People are having voting parties. You go online and you look at all the kinds of companies in your community that are creating a better world. You get to vote for the ones you care about. And then you get to support them in whatever manner you may want to. If you have connections, or if you have influence within different organizations, or you can buy their products or services, or recommend them to friends and amplify what they're doing in the world. And we're doing this country by country. Our goal is to expand this around the world. The UK is our 5th country. So that's a very basic overview of the model. On the next slide, I mentioned this earlier, but we are focused on working on the world's to-do list. So we only fund entrepreneurs who are working on critical global priorities. And we started this 5 years ago, and has it ever proven to be a good strategy given the state of the world right now? We're finding that many of our ventures are doing well and actually growing at this time because they're working on essential services and critical priorities. And I'll give you some examples of what they are in a minute. The whole model is based on this concept of radical generosity. And I've spent a lot of time in the sort of male-dominated business world, And this whole kind of step over each other to win, super competitive, winner takes all mindset, I feel doesn't actually bring out the best in people. And it actually doesn't really help us to reach our potential. And I've been very consumed with how do you create the conditions for people to really thrive and to create strong societies. And so underlying everything we do at SheEO is this concept of radical generosity. And especially what we see with female entrepreneurs is when they're in community together, if they assume that there are people around them that want to help them, they tend to dream bigger. And it has this ripple effect out to all of us in the community. So far to date, we have just over 5,000 activators in the 4+ UK countries that we're in. We've funded 68 women-led ventures and we have about $5 million in capital flowing out across those communities. We haven't done any funding yet in the UK. We're just getting started here. An example of one of the companies that we funded is the Alinker. You may have seen this online, but it's a really interesting, a rethinking of the walker and the wheelchair. About 50% of people who are in wheelchairs can still move their legs, but there's no way to stay active. And this bike is actually, you move it with your feet. So it stabilizes your core. You stay at eye height so that you can look at other people instead of people looking down at you and feeling excluded. And you move it with your feet, so it keeps you active. And this is a picture of Selma Blair, who's an actress from Hollywood, on this bike, which has really taken off in our SheEO community. It's exporting to all the communities that we're in. Another example is a Bigo and better packaging on here. On the left, breathable food wrap, which you can actually buy in some stores in the UK, and maybe Suzanne will tell us about where she found that in London. And on the right-hand side is an interesting new company out of New Zealand called Better Packaging, which is the first home compostable courier packaging in the world. And they are growing like crazy, as you can imagine, with all the e-commerce that's going on these days. One of the things that's happened since coronavirus and the pandemic started is that we've gone online, like many other organizations, and started to do all these Zoom calls. And right after the pandemic, we had our big global summit on the 9th and 10th of March. The pandemic was announced the next day. And we quickly realized there was going to be a huge impact on everyone in our community, including the ventures we funded. So we pulled together a global venture call. And it was incredible what happened right away. One of the first things is that people started to talk about how worried they were about their business. One of our ventures lost 95% of her revenue in the first day. And as she was sharing this in the venture call, another venture said, what do you need to stabilize so that you have some time to breathe, reframe, and figure out how to pivot your business? And she gave an amount of money to keep her staff on payroll for a month. And one of the ventures actually loaned her that money right away, said, it's coming to you. Don't worry about it. We've got this. Just pause for a second. Sometimes there's such emotion that comes up for this because, you know, one of the things that I've heard from many people in the venture community is when they first got on calls with the pandemic, the number one thing was extend your runway as much as possible, lay off everybody that you can, and make sure you have runway so you can last. And one of the things that happened in our community is we all put out this intention and said, what if we didn't lose jobs? What if we could actually redeploy people that you have on your staff to other ventures that are doing better? And what if none of our ventures went down? That was our goal and our intention that we set out. And it was so uplifting and so energizing to people that I think it just brought out so much more creativity, and lots of activators, the women who contribute capital in our network, started to do bridge loans and help each other. Those who were redeploying their capital to help others who really needed it. And then Oprah Magazine wrote about this because they were excited about the stories. And so we can send you the link after about this approach. Next slide, Jay. This is what it's like on some of our calls. We have a lot of great facilitators, and it's just coming into a community where you're feeling pretty challenged and tired, like some of you were today, and a bit overwhelmed, and realizing that there's a community of people out there that want to support you. This concept of being radically generous means that everybody who comes into this network is literally paying to help each other. And it creates a sense of abundance and possibilities that you can get what you need by supporting others. We have an app that is also an offline, well, it's an online platform where you can post asks that you have and things that you need so that other people around the world can see it, and then you can respond to it and get support. And so this is a thing that we've been doing for 5 years, and we found a nice simple way to do this online, but we've been doing it in person at events around the world. And it's really this concept of, what I find anyway, is I often stand in front of rooms and say, how many people in this room would help you would help others if they asked right now? And almost always in rooms full of women, the hands go up. And then I ask, how many people like asking for help? And usually this is like, you could hear crickets. There's not a lot of hands up. And so this concept, again, of being radically generous and supporting each other creates a safe space to ask for help and to get into this place of abundance instead of scarcity, which I've lived in for way too long. Okay, next one. Here we are. So I wonder if there are activators on the call who want to share what it's like to be in the community or why they're an activator. If there's someone, if you want to just put up your hand so I can see, I will call on you. Yes, Ruby?
Morning, everyone, and greetings from Vancouver, Canada. I'm actually a UK activator because my community is actually in the UK, and I left Canada about 15 years ago. And just so happy to be an activator. The last few weeks have been just having like the support. I'm going to start crying. Like Vicky knows that he's emotional. I'll be emotional. But like, just to give you a couple of examples, on the Ask Give side, Ali, who's on the call today, I see Ali, like we've been able to like share ideas. Apologies, Ali, that I was ill yesterday, but we're working on a few things. Abby, who is a Canadian activator, I think she's a Canadian activator. She's just helped one of my business partners to create an online game, and it's gonna go. We're almost done it, so it's awesome, and it's helping to work with entrepreneurs. It's a revenue generation game, and so it was just so cool that somebody could help us with it. I posted it on the Ask Give a couple of weeks ago, and it's now we have somebody who's helped us on it, so it's amazing. Anna Hutchinson, I don't know if Anna's on the call right now. I only have one screen on, so I guess I could flip through. Anna Hutchinson, me and I had just a back and forth conversation, and then I was helped. Now that was my gift, yeah. And she just wrote me a beautiful, beautiful email, which just touched my heart yesterday. So it's just been great during, like, I'm an entrepreneur myself, so just kind of trying to navigate through everything right now. And it's just also been great having the support. And it's also been hard because I'm way over here and my community's over there. I'm stuck here, like including my partner is over there. So it's just been nice having this support around. So that's just my experience as being an activator.
Thank you, Ruby. Does anyone else want to share the impact of being an activator? Can't. Oh yeah,
I can.
Ali.
Vicky, it's Ali.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I've activated because I do not subscribe to anything that's going on at the moment. I do not subscribe to, especially don't subscribe to the way capitalism is based on stupid growth at all costs. And I was looking for a change. I've activated because I found that change, and I found a change where I'm in control, meaning I'm super into creating the world that I want to live in, and SheEO allows me to do exactly that. It allows me to be in control of the world that I want to live in. It allows me to be in control of the world where we think about companies in a different way, think about the companies think about the world in a responsible way, and help each other. And like Vicky said, oh, when you give your monthly, it's like £70 a month, and you said, oh, you don't get your money back. I think you do, Vicky. I think what I got from SheEO, even like support from people like Ruby and everyone on these calls monthly, is worth way more than like £70 a month. And I already have an amazing network with my own organization. I think this allowed me to kind of spread the word in other areas and give love in other areas and receive love back in other areas. So that's why I mean.
Thanks, Ali. Okay. Anyone else before we go to the next piece?
I'll say something, Vicki.
Yeah, please.
It's Aliza. I'm a relatively new activator, and I haven't until now really had the time to do much with it apart from activating. What I realize is I've touched on kind of the entrepreneurial world in a whole bunch of different ways, from advising and hiring, investing, working with entrepreneurs, and having my husband do that in a similar range of capacities. But what I really liked about this is the connection to kind of philanthropy for the 21st century. And so I love that there's a very clean relationship for all of us with the ventures. We're gifting that money, but we're doing it in a way that we hope will yield specific results that benefit the world. And at the same time, we're opening ourselves and our network and anybody else or any other skills that we can to make that available to that community. And I guess my kind of driving force at the moment is very much around community building and bringing together those communities, mixing private and professional experiences. And I just feel like this is the most innovative concept that I've heard for being able to tap into a number of those priorities. So I'm thrilled to say I think 8 of the people on the call today are friends of mine or people I know, and I'm hoping to bring you many, many more.
Oh, thanks. That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I did want to say that when I started SheEO, the idea was really getting capital into the hands of women who have great ideas to create a better world, because that just drove me crazy that like the world that we're living in is not really designed by us or for us. And I think it's a massive competitive advantage to be a woman entrepreneur right now because we see things a bit differently. And so there's just so much innovation possibility. On top of that, almost everything from my perspective needs to be redesigned. Like we have to rethink almost everything, and we need everybody's ideas to create this kind of inclusive world. And I also, the evolution of SheEO has gone from really being like this new funding mechanism for women entrepreneurs to now we're having these calls every single week in every country we're in. You can join in any other country that you want to. And there's now this, what else are we gonna do? We've got these businesses started with new business models, new approaches to doing things. How can we co-create together? I've got a dream inside of me of what I'd like to do. Could I get help from other activators to help me do that? And there's this larger sort of emergence in SheEO that I think we are going to be a community that creates all kinds of innovation beyond one thing that we're doing, which is making sure that we're funding these great ideas, but we're also surfacing our own ideas. So it's a whole evolution. We're not sure exactly where. I ask myself every morning, what does SheEO want to be when it grows up? We're still in the early days of this. And so thank you very much for all being part of this. We're going to do a little bit of a practice right now of asking and giving, and we're going to go into breakout rooms. So with the magic of Zoom and breakout rooms, if you haven't been part of this, Jesse's going to push a button and we're all going to go into these smaller rooms of 4 or 5 people, and you'll have a chance to introduce who you are, who are you and why are you here, and then be able to ask yourself to get a sense of, is there something that you need? Is there something that you're thinking about that you'd like to get some support with? And you'll get the help of the other people that are in the room with you, and then we're all gonna come back. I know I was supposed to do Q&A first, so maybe, sorry, I'll just pause, getting ahead of myself. Does anyone have any questions before we go to breakout rooms as a guest? You can also ask when you're in the rooms, but is there anyone who wants to ask here? Any thoughts? Okay, let's go to breakout rooms. You can ask questions in there, do your ask gives, and then we'll come back to center. So Jessie, do you want to share how we're going to do this?
Yes, so hi everyone. So we're going to do breakout rooms next. We have 6 breakout groups. Your facilitators will be Vicky, Janiki, Tanya, Ale, Victoria, or Heather. And in your breakout group, you'll have a chance to connect with a smaller group. I've divided it up so each group will have a mix of activators, venture applicants, and guests. And just want to move one more person here. I'm going to open up the rooms now, and you'll have a chance to connect here, and we'll come back to this room in about 20 minutes. So you should see a button now to join your breakout group, and then you'll be magically transported into a new space.
want to. That'd be great.
Hello.
Hi. We do this actually, I think, every week, and sometimes we have different topics that we discuss in our breakout rooms, but it just means it gives everybody a chance to chat. And I'll just say before I get going that if you want to connect with someone else, you can use the chat box to post your contact information. You just have to remember to save the chat before you leave the meeting, and I'll remind you of that again at the end. So what I thought would be good to do is practice this Ask Give. The very first time I met Vicky, there was a room, I think there was about 75 of us, Jesse. It was last May in London, almost a year ago. And she asked how many people actually like asking for help. And I think about 2 people raised their hands. And I was definitely not one of them because it's not my comfort zone. So I'll just, if you have something you want to ask for or something you want to give or something that's on your mind, maybe we'll just go around and share it. I can start as an example. So I'll just introduce myself. My name is Heather Allen. And after a long corporate career in marketing, I was focusing on my entrepreneurial business, which I have put on hold because it's not really fitting to the times right now. And I'm spending all my energy on 2 new charities in the UK, which is really hopeful and energizing and gives me something hopeful for my day. And my ask would be, if you're based in the UK and you know a local, whether it's a small company or a small volunteer group that's done something really impactful on low carbon initiatives, if you could let me know who to get in touch with. We are collecting a lot of low carbon initiatives for our new platform to try to accelerate climate action in the UK. So that's a little bit of a long ask. I'll put my details on the chat. So that's a little bit about me, and that's practicing an ask. The first time I put that ask out in public, so feeling a little bit braver. Does anyone want to go next? Introduce yourself and whether you have an ask or a give. Anyone?
Hi, my name's Gillian. I do apologise, my camera's not actually working at the moment. I think I had to log out of Zoom first before it actually works, so forgive me. But hi, I'm Gillian. I am a digital project manager. I am slowly looking to, do my own thing.
So now that I see that we have a venture in the house. So Equi, if I'm saying your name right, because I say everything in my native language. Can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, sure. My name is Equi, and I founded Equi Botanics, which is a wholesome, pure vegan hair care product line, after I lost my hair 10 years ago and restored it. I also make hair stuff, like the one I've got on now. I've got 2 daughters, 16 and 10 years old. So all 3 of us are the faces of the business and the brand. So it's a very wholesome product. So it's pure, there's no toxic ingredients, it's sustainable, it's eco-friendly, and it's been going for 2.5 years now.
Amazing. Can you put the URL for your business in the chat?
Sure.
That would be great. Okay, why don't we go to Eve? Eve, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm Canadian, originally from Canada, but I've lived in London for nearly 22 years, so catching up. And I run a film company where we mostly do distribution and some production, which means we represent the rights to put films in the cinema and online. So with the cinemas closed at the moment, we are really redefining what we do and how we reach audiences and how we do events. But our content and the films we work on and the filmmakers we work with are all very, impact driven. We have impact goals for all our campaigns and social issues driven. And we're a female-led business. We try to focus on female directors and stories, but not exclusively. I met Vicky through a mutual friend and have been following her for years. So when she came to the UK, I thought I will become an activator. And then we talked about, because I'm a female-led film business in the cultural industries, but creative industries as well as in the tech sector, it might be a good place to grow the business in different ways too.
That's so cool. That's really great. We've done a Women Director Festival once. It was really amazing. And I would love to hear from Ellen. I think you're on mute though.
Yes, I'm off mute now. I'm the one who was taking down a tree earlier, so I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I'm American, also British, but I live in Switzerland. And I've lived here for 12 years. I used to live around the corner from Eliza and went to grad school with Eliza. I am on the board of a UK asset manager that does a lot in renewable energy and this kind of sector. I have run the Big Issue Invest in the UK as well, which does social enterprise and impact investing and a lot of microfinance. Have been CFO of a private equity asset manager in Europe, and some other more, we'll say, pro-capitalist ventures as well, JP Morgan, et cetera, et cetera. I'm familiar with the venture philanthropy space, let's say, and
I was recommended to SheEO by Elena Klarner from Marlin. So yeah, just kind of joining today as a guest out of curiosity to kind of see, you know, what sort of, from a personal perspective, what sort of collaboration we can look at down the line.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay, so I mean, we have about 15 minutes where you can ask for support in the work that you're doing from the group here, and we'll all sort of share what we can to help you, or ask specific questions about SheEO or about the experience. Or we can all just like throw up our hands and go, what kind of world are we going to create? Because everything is such a mess right now. We can start dreaming about the future. Whatever you'd like to do here, we've got about 15 minutes. But feel free to, like, this is now our group to co-create whatever it is we'd like to here. So does anyone have any questions or asks or things you'd like to discuss?
Hi, I'm curious in terms of all the entrepreneurs that are supported. It'd be great to hear some success stories around that and how that works. Appreciating that, unfortunately, not every great idea or initiative gets off the ground or sort of succeeds first time. It'd be great to sort of understand how that dynamic works.
Sure. So the model with SheEO is that entrepreneurs apply online. They need to meet our criteria, which is, so in the UK, it'll be about at least 40K in revenue this year, up to a couple of million. And they need to be majority woman-owned and women-led.
Hi, Carolina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Welcome. So we're just in breakout rooms right now. Would you like me to assign you to join one of the small breakout groups?
Yes, that would be great. Sorry, I have 2 kids at home in lockdown, so I got a little delayed.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. So all we're doing in the breakout groups is introducing ourselves to a small group. Each group has a mix of activators, ventures, and guests new to SheEO. And then you'll also have an opportunity to share and ask something if you need help with something or if there's support you'd like to offer. So I've assigned you to join a group now, so you should see a button where you can click in to join that room.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Already. I'll shoot you my email so that way you have my contact.
Thank you.
Great stuff. I can introduce myself. I'm Lisa Lechner. You can see that. I'm from Toronto. I'm an activator for, this is my 4th year here in Canada. And I got on the call today because somehow yesterday I was on LinkedIn and saw there was the invite, and I was really excited when I first heard, whatever, a year ago, I'm going to say, that SheEO was looking to get into the UK and getting the ball rolling there. And then I spoke to a few people about it when we were at the Global Summit, which it seems just happened right before the COVID lockdown. So that was fortuitous, and everybody seemed to get through it all. So that's good. I sort of look back to that when, you know, you're having a bad day, because that was such a great uplifting couple of days. So yeah, I was here just to sort of peek around, hear what people were saying, see what was happening in the UK. I'd love to see the UK as an established SheEO spot. I think it would be great to have, well, UK as being the European kind of hub, if you will, and then with Canada, the US, I spend a lot of time with my business going back and forth, not now, but usually. Yeah, so that's why I'm here. And just to loop back to the question a couple of you guys are asking, I don't have the direct exact answer for what the dates are for the UK for SheEO, but what I do know is, you know, yeah, as somebody alluded to, you do need some amount of pot of money to get the thing going. So in Canada, we have 500 activators. That's our button. I think the first year they did it in the US, there was a few less than that. They didn't wait. So I guess there is some wiggle room in there, but in general, it was 500. It was $500,000. And then that kind of triggers, you know, you close the activators, then you triggers the venture applications, triggers the close of accepting the applications, which then triggers the voting, the first round of voting, which is taking the big, whatever that number.
Hi, Elisa.
Jesse, can you hear me? I got dumped out. Heather's, my friend Brandy was just talking. I feel terrible. Thank you.
No problem.
And what I'm working on is actually developing an experience, a program, a platform essentially to support working parents with the goal of chipping away at the motherhood penalty, decreasing the gender pay gap, and improving the number of women in leadership positions. Because basically, when you become a parent, that's typically when women see the adverse outcomes and the differences between what they're experiencing as professionals and what their male counterparts are experiencing. So that's what I'm working on. And I would say I do have an ask. It's a two-part ask. One is, you know, my background's in strategy for large companies. So I went into an area that I knew nothing about, and I'm learning about content marketing. So if anyone has expertise on that, I'd love to have a conversation. And then what I can give, I won't do the second part of the ask. I think that's a little bit greedy for the first time. What I can give is I have, my background is in strategy, so for large companies. So I do know a good amount about the financial services industry. That's where my background was. I know how to do market sizing. I know how to create pitch decks and tell stories using data. So that's where my expertise is. Granted, for very large companies and large markets, but that's where my expertise is, and that's what I can offer.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Carolina. It's fascinating to hear just all there's so much similar experience in this small group, which is fantastic. A lot of strategy expertise and also entrepreneurship and business development. So I think even within this little community we have here, there's a lot of support that can be offered. Carolina, what was the name of your business again? I just want to get it into the chat box so we can all check it out.
Yes, it's called Afterthird, so www.afterthird.com, and you won't see any mention of the work that we're doing for large companies. We're developing that right now, but you will see basically a free resource for parents. So a curated network, we reference check them, we put them out.
So that's kind of how it works with our ventures, but then activators will support them for whatever it may be they might need. It might be, you know, they're interested in looking for follow-on funding. So there could be other activators that, you know, will provide them with some capital. They could support them with connections. They could support them as friends, as new talent. We've had an activator join a company of a venture before and help them lead their business. So there's really a lot of different ways. And then from the activator side, a lot of women will come in as activators to be able to have access to the network and then to be able to grow and learn. And then they may apply as a venture down the line, or just be able to build their business in that process. Yeah, does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And then again, like the AskGive app that Jessie mentioned is really, really helpful to be like, I'm looking for branding support, or I'm looking for, someone to help me with my pitch deck, or guidance or navigation in a sector.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Does anybody else have anything that they wanted to ask or share out? Busola, how's your experience been in the UK?
Yeah, so I was just going to mute myself and share that experience as well. So, I mean, I actually joined with a friend of mine. So we've had a journey, and it's been good because I think the power for me, or one of the blessings is, sometimes doing it with friends, like in a friendship club, because then you can move between that space of coming out and coming in to connect with a wider pool. But what I have found is it's really the support. I can't express it enough. And so, having women that you're just meeting for the first time, but people actually taking that time to talk about your business, what do you need? I mean, I had a fundraising crowdfunding page, and I had women from the SheEO actually put money in the crowdfund. I was just really overwhelmed with that love, with the generosity that came with it. And they would send emails afterwards, are you okay? Or just checking in, or signposting me to other places as well. And these are kinds of access that you would never get anywhere else. Like if you don't ask, then people don't know you have those needs. So I think one of the things I've really learned within this platform is being able to ask. I think women really do find it hard. And I think just really being more comfortable to say, I need this help, no matter how small it is. Like, just encourage me, or I need it. So nothing is too big and nothing is too small to ask for. And I think that's one of the things, my key takeaway is to just ask, and there'll be groups of women to really rally around you. And what I've found as well is with the AskGive app that Jess has put together, when you put your ask in, it actually follows up with an email. So it doesn't all have to happen within the app. So it's just happening by email afterwards. So you can actually take the conversation away from the app, or you're now engaging on a one-to-one in an email setting. And so it takes away from this, everyone looks at app and there's a connection there, but then the connections are then made outside. So it's just really an entry route. And I would just really encourage you all as women really to use those ask actually to connect with the wider community.
Amazing.
It's been great. It's been great. And I've got friends as well. I think I've invited 4 of my friends on this platform, and they've all been sending me WhatsApp to say, this is amazing, this is amazing. And it really is. And I'm just not just saying that, but it is amazing to have this great connection with women who are in different spheres. I know that Anne, you talked about being a CFO. I was a CFO. And so even having a sounding board to say, actually, I'm trying to solve this, and being able to call Anne later on to say, what do you think about this problem? That's a gift, especially when you're isolated and you feel alone as an entrepreneur. To have someone else to bounce those ideas with, absolutely priceless.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And to that point, around being a CFO, we have one activator, Tanya Lowe in Vancouver, and she has been on every single activator call, on every single venture call, to be like, let me just break down in English what the government is offering, because everyone's trying to navigate and figure out, all these different, grants and the different wage subsidies and things like that that are happening in Canada. And she's created a full document that she updates every day to share out with all the ventures and all the activators. I've called her personally to support me with a not-for-profit that I work with. And it's just being able to be like, I'm just going to call a CFO really quick and just get her feedback real fast. Never would have been able to do that before. So really, really valuable opportunity.
I'll also jump in here. Just wanted to share. So the AskGive platform that we've mentioned a couple times, going on there and just seeing the asks are one part in terms of what Busola shared, gaining practice and confidence, asking for help from this really supportive community. But when you go in and you just look at what people have offered as gives, It is so mind-blowing, the generosity, this radical generosity in the network. There are activators who are offering their, financial expertise, or one of our activators in New Zealand, who's a masterful virtual facilitator, has offered, this free webinar on how to make your Zoom meetings really exciting and how to make them engaging, that a lot of activators have since joined and raved about. Activators who are offering advice and time on how to do search engine optimization or social media marketing, or helping you design your website. The generosity is incredible, and I feel like these times that we're all in, this shared experience, has really brought our community closer together.
It goes back to what Ali was saying, that when you think about the £70 that you pay, you actually take a lot out, because the time for a CFO like Anne for an hour is a lot more than £70. So I think actually we are actually all, we do receive a lot, and I think sometimes the entry point isn't actually, it just disappears because of the value you get back from it.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one of the other great asks I loved was somebody put in, I'll give you 20 minutes with your children. Take care of your children for 20 minutes on Zoom. Anyway.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main room. You'll see if you go on gallery view, all the faces are popping back up. So we have about 30 more seconds, and then everyone will be back here. How are your breakout rooms?
We had the best one, Jessie. No, I'm joking.
That's great to hear. I also, just while everyone's joining us here, wanted to share, I'm going to post in the chat, a video from one of the ventures, Brandy. She's one of our US ventures, Farm from a Box. She posted a really powerful video of what her experience has been like as a venture in the network and some of the support she's received. So I've posted that in the chat. Feel free to check out that video after our call. Okay, it looks like everyone's back, so I'm going to pass it back to Vicky.
Thank you. So Ali, why don't you share how amazing your group was, since you said that was the case?
Oh my gosh, our group, okay, it was 8 of us, and I think for at least one ask, there were 2 people that could help, right? And I'm going to start with ventures and equity. If I'm not describing well, please jump in. But you have an amazing product that you make that helps with hair loss, and you need to give exposure to your business. And Kalila is basically on it's kind of does all that kind of things with growth strategies and marketing, and she's automating that. And I think it's really amazing because in our room we had people who actually want to help ventures scale up, even with things like contracting and governance, which I learned what it is now. Thank you, Helen, for clarifying. So, and then there is even one venture in our room that is working on automating that, like, and giving courses and education on how to kind of really grow and scale your company. So we had like just completely by chance, and a great group.
Fantastic. Any other groups want to share? So Tanya, do you want to share from your group?
Yeah, we had a terrific group, a mix of different folks. I think what was really neat to see was so many had so much experience with strategy development, business development. They're a group of entrepreneurs. We had 3 guests, Tana, Carolina, and Dominique. It was great because they were all deeply invested in the entrepreneurship community, as well as supporting women. So very aligned with what we're doing here.
Fantastic. Heather, do you want to share from your group?
Sure. Yeah, we had 4 or 5 guests in our group, and we had some great chats around asks and gives, introducing ourselves, but also just in terms of going into a bit more about the whole SheEO model, Vicky, and what happens with the ventures and sharing funding, and how their coaching sessions and all that, which was really it's quite exciting actually. So yeah, it was fun.
Oh, great. Okay. Janaki, did you want to share?
Yeah, so we had a great group. We were about 6 of us with a couple of activators. who were very, very engaged and shared a lot about how the SheEO community has really supported them in learning how to ask. And now they're making all asks, whether they're big or small, and receiving all kinds of support, and how the app has been really, really helpful in both being able to see what the asks are, but then also being able to see the gives. So really nice discussion and introduction into some new faces too.
Excellent. Okay. In our group, we actually had a lot of interesting sort of cross-pollination, a lot of people that were interested in impact investing or private equity, social impact, and someone who was doing software implementation, which was really great. And so someone who was actually working in gender diversity and private equity, which definitely needs a lot of work. So it was really fascinating just to hear from new people that are coming and who are interested in this model. And we had a few questions around the impact on the ventures from this community. And then also a question around, as given the time that we're in, we see a lot of new initiatives starting up around women and capital, and trying to fund more ventures that are run by women, and how are we working with them. So that's also one of the things we take a very much a systems and ecosystem-based approach. And we found in all the markets that we're in that we have really nice representation from lots of different groups that are trying to solve similar problems. So there's a lot more collaboration than there is competition in the old world, that hopefully is going to melt away beautifully and slowly so that we can get to a much more inclusive place. But that was some of the stuff from our group. And Jessie, I think one of the things, I know that you wanted to get a gorgeous group photo from everybody. Do you have a specific question on what you'd like us to represent in our photo? Arms flailing, hearts. How would you like to take a picture for this?
I wouldn't say flailing, but I would say physical expression, capturing how you're feeling right now.
Okay. On the count of 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
And there's 2 screens, so we're going to do it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful.
Thank you so much for that. I wanted to just leave the last couple of minutes for any questions that maybe have arisen from you or comments that you'd like to make. Thank you very much for bringing guests to this call, for the activators and ventures who shared the word. But I'm just going to kind of open mic it for a moment if anyone would want to share what they're feeling after this call, or any questions they have.
Can I have just one question that came up in our group, which is actually, where are we in the UK in terms of the number of activators and what's required before you could launch the fund?
Where's Jessie? What's the number?
We're currently at 92 activators.
So 92. We like to get to 500 to start. So there's about a pool of capital that's roughly 85K per venture. We have actually gone to market with less than that in other places, because part of the thing we've learned over time is that the biggest impact on the ventures is really the community of activators to support them. The money is part of it. Everyone always thinks the money is everything. And then you get in the community and go, oh, actually, with a couple of introductions, you could have twice that with a new customer that comes from influence. So we'd like to do at least a minimum of 250 activators, which is double the number where we are right now, and up to 500 would be perfect. And it's just really, now is the time to be finding incredible ventures to support locally. So our growth is always word of mouth, as I mentioned, the sort of speed of trust before, and finding the others who are keen to create this perpetual fund in your country.
Yeah. Well, it seems like that's an ask for all of us, which is to grow the network in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Find a person and off we go. Everything is self-organized with this model. So that's great. The link to Activate is in the group chat. If you are interested today as someone who's come on as a guest recommended by somebody on this call or otherwise, feel free to join. It's very simple, credit card and you're in. And we do these calls every week that you get to join. And then when we get to the number that everyone decides is the right number, we'll open up for applications and start funding ventures.
How long have you been working on activating in London?
In London, we've been sort of seeding it for the last year, roughly. Sort of like a few events here and there. And then this makes it a little bit easier, right, to be able to do these calls now. So we're going to continue to do Bring a Friend once a month and see how that grows to build.
And how have you done in your other countries on your payback rates? Because obviously you don't have a rate of return for the funds, but have most of your organizations made the 5-year payback?
So we're just hitting our 5th year in Canada. And so our first cohort hasn't missed a single payment, which is amazing. Women pay their debts. But overall, we're like 95% payback rate at the moment. So that's how it's looking.
So maybe
Vicki, just a quick question for people who couldn't make the call. I've had a couple of people ask if they could have the recording or if they could have the documents, any documents or anything. Will that all be available? Yes. Jesse, maybe you can.
Yes, so I'm going to send a follow-up email to everyone on the call, and anyone who registered with the call recording, please feel free to share that information and the recording with your networks from there.
Is there someone else with a question?
I had a question about, since I'm only 3 years here in London, most of my friends and contacts are still back in the US. How often are you doing this effort to expand the network in the United States? And how does that happen? Or maybe you could email me and just tell me who's the point of contact there for a US friend to attend a seminar or a session like this.
Yeah, we're doing them each week. So we'll make sure that you get that link as well, Adele. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we're open, activation's open all year. So you can come in at any time.
I bet.
Who else?
Just to add, the cool thing is you can pop into any activation link. I'm just mentioning that. So if you are in the UK and want to join the US one, you can do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So for some people who are growing their business to other markets, it's great to get on calls in other countries so that you can actually build your network that way. You don't have to just stay on calls in your own country. Beth, you were raising your hand. You're good? Okay.
I already had it. I need to drop it.
Okay. All right. We're 1 minute over. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Really appreciate your time. And please reach out and ask us any questions you have. Just hi@sheeo.world.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.